Welcome to round number 11 of the Darkmatter Designs Cup Series here at Talladega Super Speedway. And it's going to be a huge race for everybody. Everybody knows how Talladega is. You have to survive and survive the big one. I'm joined in the booth tonight by my man, Chris Speer. Chris, it's going to be an exciting race. We got a new aero package that none of these drivers have really ran in before. What can we expect out here at this 2.66 mile super speedway?
Well, you can change the package, Jared, but you cannot change the race car driver in themselves. These guys are going to go 3 wide, 4 wide, whatever it takes to be able to get up front either early or late in the race to be able to have a chance to win. It's anyone's game here tonight. It's super speedway racing, Jared. It's going to be interesting throughout the entire race.
Yeah, exactly right. Let's take a look at how we're coming into today's event here in the Sewtiff Quilting Services 250. Sewtiff Quilting coming on board as the sponsor tonight. They are a long arm quilting service providing professional services for all your quilting needs. Tiffany, the owner, has been in quilting for over 20 years and has the most up-to-date equipment on the market. She can be contacted at tiffany@sewtiff.com. And check those guys and girls out there at www.sewtiff.com. Let's go ahead and get into our championship picture, Chris, and it's looking pretty tight at the top. But more importantly, we have 45 drivers in here. That means 5 drivers going home tonight.
That's right, 5 drivers that are not in the top 25 in points that automatically get a shot at the race that are going to go home, and it's a tight battle back there in that 25th spot looking at the standings, Jared.
Yeah, it is, and you look back here, we got Donnie Staubitz 4 points out of the top 25, Kevin Rupert holding on to that 25th spot, Jared Daniels with 172 points. Now, Jared Daniels is stepping away from the series for a time period because he's got some real-life job stuff that he's got going on that is going to be taking up his time, some training, I believe. So Jared Daniels is going to be stepping away. He is 24th in points. Rachel Hunt, a 3-time winner in the Cup Series back in 23rd. Prior Truck Series champion Brian Helm in 22nd in points as well. So a lot of big names. We also have Brody Hanna, a previous Cup champion, back there in 27th. Tracy Powers in 28th. Tony Solari, Brian Bliss, Jeff Chandler in the rest of those drivers. So we got a lot of drivers on the outside looking in. Now Brody Hanna does have that championship provisional, and he is the only driver, past champion in the field tonight. So he's got that pretty much on lock if he does not make the qualifying times. But either way, for these drivers that are outside the top 25 in points, Chris, this is a tough track to qualify on to try to make your way into the race.
It certainly is, and it's one of those tracks that basically no matter what you do, you're out there all alone. You don't have the help of the draft like you will have the rest of the race. And so you really have to pick your line pretty perfectly to get around here and actually have a good speed.
Exactly right. It's going to be interesting as qualifying is just now starting here at Talladega Super Speedway. Let's take a look at the race information. Talladega, a 2.66 mile track and legendary. Allegedly built on some Indian burial grounds. We've had some crazy incidents, some very unfortunate tragedies have happened at this track. We had, the death of Davey Allison in 1993 in a helicopter. James Hilton was killed in a car crash here, not in the vehicle, but outside the track. And not to mention, you have Bobby Isaac hearing a voice telling him to quit or he was going to die. And unbelievable, some of the stories you hear about Talladega. And looking at the track information, Chris, 74 degrees air temp, 118 degree track temp. That is huge. That's the hottest track we've seen all season.
It certainly is, and one thing that we witnessed in the real life Cup Series race here, those guys were complaining that actual traction matters here with these tires, whereas in years past that really wasn't such a big deal. But slipping and sliding, these guys are definitely going to be doing it here tonight, Jared.
Yes, they are, and let's take a look at some of these drivers going around the track right now as we have qualifying just now starting up here at Talladega. And we've got, let's see who we got on the track. We've got Kevin Rupert coming around. It looks like he is doing his first lap here. And Chris, you were talking about the line. You can see him right up against the fence, maybe not too high on his first lap. And now he's going to start, looks like actually that's his out lap, so I apologize. So he's on his first lap right now. You can see him way up against the fence there, Chris. That's the quickest way around the track to get your best lap on the second time around.
It certainly is. There's a lot of different ways that people try to make it a way around this track. But one thing that is definite for everyone out here is that the start finish line is not in the trioval. These guys have got to go an extra almost 300 yards to get to it. So you can't just let off of it right here in the middle like you would at Daytona. So it feels like you've got a little bit more track, and in reality you do, as this is a .11, I think, bigger than Daytona.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, 0.16 or something like that, bigger than Daytona. You see Kevin Rupert drop down to the bottom. Now he's right against that line. We do have sometimes just now coming through. Now these are could be just the intro laps, but right now provisionally Andrew Palicki on the top, Stephen Vrooman second place. There is 1/100th of a second separating those two drivers right now. And those are teammates actually at the top for Rage and Moose Racing. One of the basically the team that's sponsoring tonight's race, Paul and Kevin Sargent. Shout out to those guys. You will see that we have updated our color scheme just a little bit here. So if you see a driver in gray, those drivers are locked in, are potentially locked in. They're inside the top 25 in points. So keep an eye on those drivers here tonight. As Kevin Rupert's going to complete his first lap or second lap. Let's see where he comes out at, Chris. And Rupert is going to be 14th. So that's probably going to be good enough for him to get in the field. Let's see who else we got going on around the track here. Right now we have Tracy Powers on screen, who goes 10th quickest. He's just not getting done with his lap. And Gary Griffith now finishing up his lap. Sherwood Williford on the back straightaway on his second lap.
Well, and looking at the timing and scoring, the top 20 are only separated by 2/10 at the moment, and even tighter than that, the top 15 are only off by almost a tenth here, Jared. That's how close these times are already, and we haven't even gotten into a race setting.
And this is crazy. Geringer has finished his lap up, and Brody Hanna has finished his lap up. So I'm trying to find somebody that hasn't done their lap yet. Jason Speer, he's coming across the line, one of the last drivers to get his laps in, and he is going to go from 41st up to 27th. So right now we're waiting on Dale Nearad, who is locked in the race, and Rachel Hunt, who is also locked in the race. Both of those drivers have not set times. Looking at some of these drivers back in the back, I mean, Randall Ballard looking like he's going to miss the event. Same with Rory Collins, Tony Solari, James Torrey, and Donnie Staubitz all look like they are potentially going to miss this event here tonight.
They certainly are, and you hate to see it because these are guys that are actually battling for that 25th spot, and it's a pretty tight battle with these guys. So you don't want to see that they're getting kicked out because they're looking at the standings. They're all within about 10 points of each other, right there at that 25th position, Jared.
Yeah, and we are after tonight's race. I mean, we'll have 3 races to go before we're halfway through the regular season. So then that even compounds the issue just a little bit more. So qualifying coming to an end. We're going to hear our national anthem and set the grid for you here when we come back.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the lands of the free and the home of the brave?
Well, flip a coin and let me know whether or not it lands on heads or tails. You've got two different options here. You can be in front of the pack and hope that the wreck is behind you and you're not the cause of it, or you can be in the back and hope you're able to drive through whatever happens in front of you. So there's a lot of different options that can happen here at super speedways. So these guys are all going to get an opportunity to decide what it is that works best for them and hopefully make some friends quick because you can't win this one on your own.
The field is rolling on the back straightaway.
Get ready, this is going to be tight. Out of turn 4, ladies and gentlemen. The All-American 400 is underway.
Got to be careful. The bumps here can get you every time. Entering the corner, exiting the corner.
This is the sound of the dog show.
And you will know my name is the Lord.
All right, we are back at Talladega Superspeedway. Had a brief thunder shower come across the speedway. The jet dryer's out there, and we've got the track ready to go, dried, and we will have some racing here in a moment. Chris, you know, we had a little bit of a delay there. How is that going to impact these drivers' mentalities heading into the start of the race?
Well, these guys are going to need to be as focused as possible, and we just broke that concentration that these guys have. So it'll be interesting to see. You know, honestly, though, once you get into that race car and you're around all these other cars, I'm sure that you'll quickly find your way back into that zone. You're not really going to have much of a choice because it's going to happen whether you're ready or not, Jared.
Yeah, exactly right, Chris. And you know, we look at these the race ahead, the race in the past. You know, this is a big night. I mean, we talk about some of the drivers that missed the race. Donnie Staubitz missed the race. He's 26 in points. We already talked about Jared Daniels not being here for the foreseeable future. That was a spot that Donnie Staubitz, Tony Solari, both those drivers could have had a big opportunity to move into the top 25 in points, but unfortunately missed the event tonight.
Certainly a an unwanted event for those drivers, as they were definitely working their way into the top 25, and not going to help them by not being in the race, that's for sure. But that gives them all the more reason to work that much harder for Kansas next week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as we have a second here, as these drivers, we're waiting for all the drivers, the crews to get all the cars back on ready on the grid. We got some guys out here doing some testing for a second, but we look ahead at the schedule, Chris. I mean, we got Kansas, Darlington, Dover, Circuit of the Americas, Charlotte, and Sonoma before our All-Star event in mid-June at Texas. I mean, that is a pretty big mix of tracks, and a lot can happen in those next 6 races.
It's certainly a lot can happen, and don't look now, but COTA is one of those tracks that these guys, if they're not already practicing for or testing for, they need to start. It is a difficult track, to say the least. It is not very friendly for these 3,400-pound cars, and these guys are definitely going to be in for quite a treat. So are our viewers when we get to COTA in a couple weeks.
Yeah, COTA, Circuit of the Americas, COTA. The sports car division at FTSR ran that track back in May, or not May, wow, in the future, right? No, we ran that back in February. And so some of the drivers are a little bit familiar with it, but that is a new taste for the NASCAR world, as in real life, that is going to be on the schedule. And FTSR follows the real life schedule. So that's going to be huge. And then Sonoma, 2 races later. I mean, that's some road courses right back to back there that are going to be interesting to see. And a new All-Star race at Texas is going to be even crazier. But that Dover race, that's halfway through the regular season. And that's when we're really going to see kind of how this playoff picture is going to start to shape up, Chris.
We certainly will, and Dover is that short track that races like a mile and a halfer with its high banks and high speed. That track is known to grab a couple, and definitely Miles the Monster will do everything he can to get his palms on you.
Yeah, exactly. Miles the Monster. We know how difficult and treacherous that track can be. I mean, it is a concrete 1 mile track. I mean, I love going to that track. I love watching races. I love racing at that track. But these guys, it's going to be one of those races you have to be on top of it. Unfortunately, as we said earlier, FTSR follows the schedule. So there's only going to be one trip to Dover. It's no longer later in the season. So it's only the one trip here in May to Dover. A little bit sad to see Dover get cut down to one race.
Speak for yourself. Some of us road course guys actually are happy for that. That gives us an opportunity to throw in a couple more road courses and challenge those that like to go left to turn right.
Exactly. Love road courses. Love the tracks that have been added on here in the NASCAR schedule. Would have liked to seen some other tracks disappear and not Dover personally, but is what it is, right? And we're still waiting on a few drivers to get into the server here, and we will be going here in just a moment. Chris, we talk about Talladega, that new aero package. I know you've had an opportunity to get out there and mess with that a little bit. What are these guys gonna experience out there in the car tonight?
Well, in the previous aero packages, you were able to take 1 or 2 cars and be able to move your way through the field. That's not going to be the case here tonight. Tonight, you're going to need roughly 5-6 cars on any given lane to be able to make moves on your leader. And surprisingly enough, Jared, I'm going with the guy that's on the outside is going to end up winning this race.
Yeah, in the last couple races here at Talladega this week, although the Xfinity cars and the truck vehicles, they have not been updated to the extent that these cup cars are, but the guys on the outside, the guys that made the move toward the end of that race, they were the ones that really made that work, and it's going to be interesting to see what can happen here. Still waiting on, it looks like, one driver to get into the server.
So it'll take the bunch of guys getting together here, Jared, to be able to make the win. But additionally, if we have long green flag runs here, strategy and pit strategy can make all the difference here. We talked a little bit about tires mattering a little bit early on in the broadcast, but some guys are going to risk it. If you're back behind that 25 mark or even right there at the cutoff, you may take 2 tires and just get fuel so that you can get back on track and hopefully stay ahead of some of your opponents to be able to get as many points as you can at the end of this race. There's a big wild card at Talladega and any super speedway racing for that matter.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's the thing. It's a wild card, and it's going to be interesting to see what these guys can do here at Talladega as we are getting close to, I think, getting our race going here. And we are going to take a quick commercial break and hopefully be back here in just a minute for the grid. All right, we are back live here at Talladega Superspeedway, where we have the grid going right now as we speak. Take a look at our starting lineup. Andrew Palicki on the pole with Steven Vrooman in second place. Then we also have Ronnie Royal and Gary Griffith in row 2. Sher Williford, Zach McDaniel, Troy Torgerson, Bernard Person, Jeff Chandler, Tracy Powers, your top 10. We look a little bit further back through the rest of this field. These guys coming across turn number 4. We've got Brian Helm, Rob Shoemaker, good qualifying from him. Hensley, Mayu, Winter, Rupert, Bratton, and McMullen, your top 20. And we will scroll out the rest of your grid so you can see where your favorite driver is. Gil Gock did not make the start, so he will be credited with 40th place tonight. But otherwise, we have a full field here at Talladega after the weather delay. Chris, glad to have you back in the booth here. It's going to be an exciting race.
It certainly is, Jared, and these guys are going to be up for a massive challenge as they have to weave their way in and out of traffic no matter what, because it's not going to be lap cars that's going to be in your way. It's going to be 40 other drivers.
Exactly right, as we will have 94 laps around Talladega Superspeedway. Glad to have you along here at Virtual Talladega, and we are about ready to get this thing going. Green, Andrew Palicki, and Steven Vrooman will lead him down. Raging Moose Racing here at the Sewtiff Quilting 250. The long, long, long run down to the start-finish line. And green flag is out here at Talladega.
And Jared, that might be the quickest time that we're going to see them go single file right here up at the front, as they've already decided to do so with Palicki leading.
Palicki, Gary Griffith, Zach McDaniel, Steven Vrooman all tucked in line. We have the outside groove starting to come together, but this field a little bit spaced out here already, Chris.
It's a long race. These guys know it. That's why they're spread out like this. They don't want to have any issues early on, and so the quicker they can get single file, quicker they can just tick down some laps here.
Palicki, Griffith, McDaniel, Vrooman, Royal, your top 5 right now. Behind him, Sher Williford, Tracy Powers up into 6. Paul Sargent, Shoemaker, and Bernard Person in your top 10. Bernard is that driver on the outside, our past champion. He's got 1-2 drivers behind him, but that inside line, Chris, we have gotten single file, I think the quickest I've ever seen at Talladega here tonight.
We certainly have, and for good reason. These guys know that they can't be too aggressive early on, and that's why they're perfectly content with staying single file for the moment.
Yeah, exactly right. We look out the back, Andrew Palicki's machine, and he is leading his first laps of the season, first laps of his career here at Talladega. You look out the back of that machine, and you got Gary Griffith right there in his machine. Zach McDaniel having a good run in the top 5 there. But Chris, you know, we have 40 drivers, technically 39 drivers out here right now, and they have gotten single file, but we already have a second pack that's kind of broken away from this main lead group.
Well, broken away isn't really the correct term. They're just laying back, if you will, trying to do whatever they can to make it to the finish here, and that's the biggest reason why they're back there. And a couple of them are guys that are on that bubble of the 25 points area, just trying to make it to the end of the race. But one thing that's not going to help them is they're not exactly single file back there, Jared.
Yeah, they're not. We look at some of these drivers back in the second group. We got Chad Lang back there. We got John Held back there. Jeff Winters back there. Bobby Terrell's back there. Joe Flanagan making his Cup Series debut. He's back there as well. So a lot of different drivers back in the back, Chris. I mean, these guys are going to have to get this thing sorted out, because the more they're single file at the front, the more they're going to be pulling away. And you already got 3 drivers. Actually, you have that first pack, Chris. You have that second pack. And you actually have 3 drivers hanging off the back of the pack back there. That's Dale Nearad, our point leader, Dean Doucette, a past champion, and Kenneth Schultz, who is just on the outside of the top 25 in points. They are dropping very quickly, Chris.
They certainly are. There's a pack that is hanging way back, and there is a pack that's hanging way, way, way back, and that's these guys in the very back here with Dale Nearad, Kenneth Schultz, and Dean Doucette.
So what is going on with these guys, Chris? Did they just lose touch of the draft, or is there some strategy at play, or it looks like they're kind of catching up to Joe Flanagan, or he's coming back to them? One of those two, but my goodness, they are, yeah, Flanagan's getting caught by this group. So Schultz will head out to the outside of him, but my goodness, these guys really dropped off the pace.
They certainly have, and honestly, it's just them figuring out what it is to get to the end. The draft is certainly not working in their favor, as they're going to be left here early on. But don't count them out. This is just their version of their strategy, and hopefully it works out for them.
Yeah, right now it is single file, Chris. I mean, it is single file as far as you can see. Our first driver that's kind of out of line. You have to go back to this second or third group back here. I can't even tell who that is. It's one driver by himself. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's John Held in the 10 car dropping to the back of this group. But, Chris, I mean, this is single file all the way around this track.
Well, and I don't know about you, but this early on, I would in this group racing up here. There's nothing to gain competitors at this point.
Yeah, exactly right. We lost a little bit what you're saying there, Chris, but I think we got the gist of it right now. But we check back in up front. Andrew Palicki, Gary Griffith, all hanging out. We talked about it earlier, Chris, but let's bring up the race analysis one more time for our viewers at home. Track located out in Lincoln, Alabama, a little bit north of actual Talladega, Alabama. Opened in 1969, and we've seen some interesting things that have happened here. A boycott, the union, and all that stuff that happened. Banking 33 degrees in the turn, 16.5 in the tri-oval. Tonight's race, 94 laps. The last time we were here, one of those drivers hanging off the back of the pack, Dean Doucette, took home the victory. And we're looking at a pit window of around 30 to 35 laps, so it's a definite two-stopper. And if you don't time it right, could be a three-stopper if you come in too early.
It certainly can, and that's one thing that we'll have to keep an eye on here is the guys deciding what pit strategy they are actually going to go with here. Long race, a lot of things that can happen, and we're going to see it all here live on Full Throttle TV.
Yeah, and this is, Chris, I'm a little bit surprised at how tame this race is right now. You know, we had a Full Throttle Sim Racing had their truck series on Wednesday night that we broadcasted on Full Throttle TV, and it was not this tame. It was 2-3 wide racing at the very beginning of the race. From that point on, they couldn't seem to get separated from that pack. And then the Xfinity race on Thursday night that I participated in, same way. And here again tonight, we have these drivers. It's single file as far back as you can see. We see Brody Hanna heading to the top, and that is, I think, David Hensley? No, that's Matt Geringer coming up there with them. So interesting, and it looks like Hanna's going to drop in line. They're not going to go forward there.
Not at all, and that is completely okay because once again, these guys just need to get some laps under them.
And we look a little bit further back in this pack. I mean, we got some drivers all over this track. We do have a little bit of a second groove starting to form here with these drivers. A little bit further back as you look at Josh Mayu there in the Faster Racing number 51 in the middle of this pack. But Brody Hanna and Matt Geringer, they seemed like they want to move forward a little bit, but they just don't have anybody willing to jump up there right now. And Geringer is going to drop into line. No, Chris, we still got you.
Yeah, we still got me. I am right here watching along with you, and definitely quite a show we got here.
Exactly right. It sounded like there was a little connection issue there, so just wanted to make sure we didn't lose you there, but we look at this race. Tim Bill's right there in front as we are working already 10 laps into this 94 event. Delayed just a little bit due to weather, we'll call it. And now we got a little bit of a group forming. Chris, that second group back here that was led by Brad Patterson in the 28, he has come through here and looks like he is trying to make a move on the outside right now.
User joined your channel.
We see that second group is actually trying to make something happen on the outside here, and it doesn't seem like they're moving too far forward, but that's led by the Blackwater guys, Brad Patterson and Terry Cooper Jr., Brody Hanna in that group, as well as Jeff Bratton, Josh Mayhew, and Matt Geringer. Continue to pace here on lap number 11 here at Talladega, Alabama. Chris, you look back up front. This group, we got a little bit of three wide action. What's going on back here? Just saw it at the top of my screen here. It looks like maybe Brad Patterson, Lane Allen in that group, as Brad Patterson is going to get shuffled to the high side. And Lane Allen in the 14 very loose, Chris. And they're wrecking. But we stay green. So I think I've lost my sidekick here, so we'll try to do what we can here.
I'm right here with you. I've got voice, but unfortunately I've been, for some reason I got kicked out of the server. So I'm hopping back in to be here with you, Jared. It's certainly interesting to see that didn't bring out a caution, but they were able to gather it up and continue the right direction. It's certainly not what those drivers involved were expecting there, as they seem to come back down a little bit here.
Yeah, exactly right, Chris. Well, hopefully we'll get you all straightened out here, but we will look and see what is going on up front. But Jeff Bratton made it through that little, I don't want to call it an incident because nobody really got damaged, but my goodness, that could have been bad for some of these guys involved there. We do look a little bit further back at that second group. I mean, we do have some guys with some damage. Terry Cooper Jr. with some damage. That front end is missed. The clip is missing on that 25 as he is going to let Chad Lang go by. Lane Allen and Brian Bliss, all teammates, all the same group. Blackwater, Faster Sim Racing, and also Steve Berry Racing, all part of the same group, all getting caught up in that. And very unfortunate as you're going to see some drivers head to pit road. Lane Allen and Terry Cooper heading down a little bit early right now.
Well, it's definitely a little early in the race, but it may be a victim of these guys just wanting to be outside of the sequence of so many other people. That might be the biggest reason why they're deciding to come down.
Yeah, Terry Cooper definitely had some damage, missing the front clip of that car. So he actually has retired from the race. So a tough break for Terry Cooper Jr.
Yeah, Terry's not had quite the best races recently. As we saw last week, didn't have the race that he was looking for as well.
Exactly right here. And we look at the front, again, still single file. And we saw kind of what happened on our screen there. What was going on was basically there was a little bit of shove from a car. Couldn't tell exactly who it was. We'll try to get a replay on that here in a little while. And basically Lane Allen got loose and caused a little bit of a checkup. And now we got second groove coming again, this time led by Ronnie Royal and his teammate, Sher Williford, Jeff Bratton there too. And up at the front, Gary Griffith going to look outside and try to take on Andrew Palicki, who's led the first 15 laps coming out turn 2. The racing is starting to heat up.
Somebody told these guys that they need to get up front in a hurry, and they are trying to do it here tonight, Jared. And this is what we kind of expected early on, but it finally come to, and it's good to see it too.
Now we've got the racing going on. This first pack has split up, and that's going to allow some of these guys that were straggling to catch back up to the race. And Gary Griffith is going to take the lead from a shove from Ronnie Royal, who almost got loose there. So Gary Griffith in the 12 going to go out front. Now the Toyotas of Speer Motorsports going to lead that outside line. Royal and Sher Williford getting shoved by a couple Fords there in Bratton and Brody Hanna. Look at back there. Let's bring up our track map real quick here as we're getting everything situated here on our broadcast side. That accident actually kind of brought some drivers back together here in this group, but unfortunately none of those are Dean Doucette, our past winner, and he is still very far off the back of the field. Kenneth Schultz back there as well, Joe Flanagan. These guys coming through the tri-oval to the start-finish line right now. Kind of shows you where they're at on the racetrack compared to the leaders who are in the front of the field. And Ronnie Royal now up on the top, getting shoved by Sherwood Williford. Jeff Bratton, what's he going to do there? Is he going to look to the middle?
And all this is happening side by side as these guys are battling up here for the lead. And it is a pretty heated battle that we have up front, Jared.
Finally, some action going on. We've had a really crazy night tonight. We've had some technical issues. We've had mostly technical issues, either with iRacing or whatever. It's been an interesting night, but now we've had this thing go forward. Ronnie Royal going to get shoved out to the front by his teammate Sherwood Williford there. Jeff Bratton there as well. We know Bratton can get it done on super speedways, and that number 55, good to see him up front as he is going to hang out to the inside. He's not going to be able to get down, so he's going to lead the charge with Brody Hanna and Jason Speer behind him. Geringer also in that group, so with Mayu.
And things have actually calmed down up at the lead with that front pack. Well, I say that, now they're ending up second, side by side for third position. But it is, you've got the 24 up leading and pretty comfortable so right at the moment. But things can change here in a hurry, Jared.
Jumped on board Mayu there at the tail end of that second line. Now can Bratton and Brody Hanna do something there on the outside? We also have Jason Speer and Matt Geringer. And it seems like, you know, we talked about it a little bit, Chris, in our pre-race coverage there, or extended coverage. Getting single file is one thing, but then you get that second line, and they can really use that side draft effect to start pulling these guys back. And you see Palicki, that side draft was by Bratton there, actually separated Palicki from Gary Griffith, who's going to head to the high side.
Well, if it doesn't work at the bottom, then you got to go up high to do whatever it is you can, because at this point, it seems like these guys are starting to get a little bit racy, and they want to be the leader. They're taking that risk of being out front means that you're not going to be the caution or involved in it, and that's what you see with that outside lane.
Well, the other thing, too, if you lead all the laps, the disadvantage is you're going to run low on fuel. You're going to have to be the first guy in the pits because you're probably flat-footing this thing all the way around the track. We saw that yesterday with Eric Almirola, Chris Bell. Those guys all had that situation going on. No different here in iRacing here. And now Gary Griffith leading the charge. We have 3 Fords on the outside, the 12, 55, and the 23. Not all on the same team, but you know how the Fords link up, Toyotas link up, and Chevys link up. And that's what's going on here tonight, right now already. And then there's that second group and a third group. We got 3 cars by themselves, Chris, and then a second pack and that are single file. And maybe they could catch back up to this group now they're balanced side by side. But we are about 10 to 15 laps from pit stops.
We certainly are, and you mentioned it that we have manufacturers working together here. That's something you definitely see in the real life, so it's kind of interesting to see that it's happening here in the iRacing world as well.
Yeah, it is, and some teams have come together to work. The Gladiators are working together. The Gladiators of Racing are working together. GT Performance is working together, and it looks like also the Jeff Chandler, the RPM Motorsports guys with Jeff Chandler and Jeff Winter working together. So all those Fords kind of linking up, working together here tonight, along with Fury Motorsports and their associated teams. And they're leading the charge on the outside. The Toyotas of Williford and Royal leading the front. Palicki there on the bottom. He's got McDaniels in a Toyota right behind him. So going to be interesting to see what these guys can do, Chris, as we are now 22 laps into this race. Caution free, although we did have an incident, but that did not take out anybody of the race. Terry Cooper did retire from the event due to damage, but everybody was able to keep going for the most part.
They certainly were able to do so, and we have the 24 that's actually going to fall back a little bit here, and that outside lane is going to prevail.
So there you see it. Jeff Bratton jumps to the low side, abandoning the Fords on the outside. Jeff Bratton wants that bonus point. Now, he's one of those drivers, Chris, that he is outside that top 25 in points, so we know how important it is for him to get those points, and maybe that's a little bit of that strategy. He's going to try to look for the lead.
Well, he can look all he wants, but that outside groove seems to be a little bit more together, and they will lead that lap on the high side there. So just like that, you saw it. He abandoned the house outside, and I said it earlier, I think you got to be on the outside to win here.
And Brody Hanna and Gary Griffith side drafting their way to the front. Now that outside line led by the 83 of Jason Speer. There, I do believe that is Jason Speer in the 83. And now Chris, he's got the Ford of Geringer behind him. Mayu is behind him. Brian Helm, his teammate behind him. Casey McMullen. So Speer and Blackwater on that outside line. Kind of rivals, but yet they find themselves having to work together here in that first pack. That second pack, though, Chris, coming in a hurry to catch up to Steve Loomis at the back of this first pack.
They certainly are. That the group of 3 cars have now been caught by that farther back pack, and now they are making their way up towards this lead pack. This lead pack is almost about anywhere between 2 and 4 mile an hour slower while they're side by side compared to those guys in single file behind.
Yeah, let's take a look here at our a dashboard, what we call our dashboard here. So we got, we're on right now Ronnie Royal, who's leading that outside line. Let's look at Gary Griffith, 194, 196 miles an hour. Brody Hannah's going to step out and go to the high side with the Toyotas and lead that outside line. He was down there with the Fords, and now Brody Hannah wants a piece of the lead lap action. Jeff Bratton in second place. But, Chris, you see Brody Hannah, when he moved up to the top, it really stalled out that run, and they kind of have to filter back in again.
They certainly will, but honestly, it's what that high groove needed. There wasn't enough cars up there to be able to make their way back up to the front, I don't believe. So now that there's a couple more there, as long as they can get tightened up, they'll be able to work their way up and around this lead pack. At least the first maybe 1-2 cars will be able to. We've already seen it here a few times tonight, and they're trying to follow suit.
And we look back, Loomis is 17th, the last driver in that first pack. Rob Shoemaker and Troy Torgerson, those 2 Fords, along with Jeff Chandler and Kevin Rupert. So the Ford conglomerate, Richie Coy, Randy McCanny, all in that group as well. 5 Fords leading the second group here. Sorry, 6 Fords, if I can count, leading the second group. They are catching. They're going about 196 miles an hour. Loomis going about 190. That's that second group. And we look a little bit further back, and that is our third group, and that is John Held, another Ford leading that group with Kenneth Schultz, Dean Doucette, Joe Flanagan, and Rachel Hunt back there in this group.
And you said it, Rachel Hunt, she is in that 24th position in our championship points. So she's going to need to do whatever she can to stay above that cutoff line, Jared.
Yeah, exactly right. And they are catching up to the back of Jeff Winter, who's at the tail end of that second group. Even though there's only 5 drivers in this second group, they are actually catching up to that pack in front of them, about about 2 seconds behind, and that continues to go down. Let's take a look back at the lead as it settled down just a little bit. Brody Hannah not being able to get anything done on the outside line, and those 2 Fords up front, Gary Griffith and Jeff Bratton leading the way with Andrew Palicki. So 3 Fords up front, followed by Zach McDaniel in a Toyota, and then Stephen Vrooman in a Ford, Tracy Powers in a Ford. And Chris, we're seeing now that one of the spotters for the GT Performance Group is going down and talking to the Havoc Sim Sports guys. That's Tracy Powers, Jeff Bratton, Matt Geringer. And I'm assuming that he's going down there to talk to him and try to work out some strategies here, as pit stops are going to be imminent here in a few laps.
They certainly are, and that is going to be a big thing. You need to figure out who you're going to pit with. This isn't like most tracks. You have to have a couple of guys go with you when you go to pit. Otherwise, you're going to be left out all on your own, and you're going to find yourself without any friends and nowhere near the lead lap cars.
Yeah, exactly right. And we see again that these guys toward the back of the pack starting to catch up, but they have stagnated just a little bit in trying to catch up to that the end of this pack. Even though they're single file or double file in this front group, that second group, Rob Shoemaker and company, they are down to about 3 seconds. That gap they just can't quite get it. At the same exact time, John Held to Jeff Winter, that's that second group to third group gap, has gotten down to 1.5 seconds. So there's 5 drivers in that second or third group have been able to close down the second group, Chris. Unbelievable.
It certainly is, and as that group catches the draft of the one in front of it, they'll be able to close in a lot quicker. That's kind of been part of the issue here with this lead group. Now that they've kind of settled back out again, even though they are side by side at the end of the pack, most of it now is going single file again, and that's not going to help that group that's back there that was trying to catch them.
If we look at the gap, Chris, from Jeff Winter to John Hell, that gap was 4.5 seconds, actually 5 seconds. It is down to 1.2, so he's starting to sniff some draft. So that third group, Dean Doucette, Joe Flanagan, Kenneth Schultz, those three that were way off the pack early in this race have clawed and climbed their way back into some sort of contention here as they are catching up to this second group. And when they catch them, that's going to be huge because they will be able to maybe help out the second group get to the first group. We jump on board with Rob Shoemaker. You see the gap there. That gap actually has gone from 2 seconds to 3.2 seconds. So the second group is losing time to the first group, even though the first group is doing battle right now.
They certainly are, and they're doing everything that they possibly can to get back up to where they need to be, but not working for them right now.
Looking back up front, Gary Griffith continuing to lead, Jeff Bratton in second, Palicki third, McDaniel, Vrooman having a great run, Powers, Paul Sargent in the Sewtiff 49. Let's jump on board there here tonight on that machine, looking very good, and glad to see Paul Sargent doing up there in the front in that number 49. Ronnie Royal 8th, Casey McMullen 9th, Sherrill Williford 10th. And Chris, we talk about it, we are now at lap 30. Now we did have obviously the draft plays a little bit of an impact here, so we're looking at pit stops here anytime at this point. They do have to make it past lap 30, so they have to pit basically lap 32 is the earliest they could come in. We're starting to see these guys set up for a pit stop.
They certainly are, and we've already talked about it a little bit, that they're going to need teammates and friends when they do, and it'll be interesting to see who decides to pit with who here. Could make a huge shakeup because depending on where you are on the track, you can make up a little bit of time if you're in that second group just based on pit stops.
Yeah, all the Toyotas, and I should say the Speer Motorsports group, they're on the outside line. Zach McDaniel, the only Toyota on the bottom right now, but all those Toyotas have moved to the top line, led by Ronnie Royal, followed by Sherrill Williford, Jason Speer, Brian Helm, Bernard Person, and now they've got a joiner of Josh Mayu. And you see that group, Dean Doucette, Kenneth Schultz, that group has caught the back of Jeff Winter. So now that second group, they got a little bit extra there. Maybe they could catch back up to this first group before pit stops happen.
That's certainly going to be the goal for that group. Make up time now on the track is a little bit easier than doing it in the pits, Jared.
There you see the gap there on our static camera in the trioval. You see that how deep that gap is getting. It's actually continuing to increase. It's now up to 4 seconds. So maybe Rob Shoemaker isn't the guy that could be leading this pack. I don't know, but it seems like they're dropping a little bit back. And again, this front group continues to pull it out as we are now working lap 33 there. And you see Paul Sargent in the Sewtiff, number 49 there in 8th place. Now dropped to 10th technically on the racetrack. But Chris, we know how important it is here at Talladega to be in a pack, be in the group, right? But the second most important thing is getting on and off pit road as quickly as you can. What can these guys do to make sure they don't make a mistake, but yet still get in and out as quickly as they can?
Well, the biggest thing, Jared, is going to be being able to concentrate on what it is that they need to be able to do. You don't want to make a mistake here because this is, even though it's a big open space here getting into pit road, these guys have every opportunity to be able to take themselves out of contention here. But if you're pitting with a bunch of guys, you have the ability to take out a lot of guys all at once.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very astute point there as we are now working lap 34. And that second group just not quite, they've stagnated about 3.3 seconds. But now that first group, it seems like pit stops could be imminent any time now, Chris, as they have gotten single file except for Josh May, who's dropping to the back of this group. And it's going to be interesting to see who's going to make the move first. And we got it coming in. It's Gary Griffith and the Fords, and it looks like the Blackwater guys coming in as well. Some of the Blackwater guys, Bratton locking it down, heading on the pit road. Zach McDaniel also in. So Steven Vrooman and Andrew Palicki, the Raging Moose guys, going to stay out with the Speer drivers.
They certainly are, and you're going to have a bunch of guys coming back on the track here. And we talked about it a little bit before. Tires do matter a little bit here, but not necessarily the key to this race. The key to this race is definitely going to be friends, and these drivers in those Ford Mustangs certainly are counting on each other here to be able to stay back up in that top pack.
Exactly right. Stephen Vrooman and Andrew Palicki, 2 Fords that stayed out. Also, Josh Mayu, part of Blackwater, did not come in on that one. Here comes the second group of cars as pack number 1 has now, everybody has come into the pits. Let's tune in to pack number 2 here and see where these guys are at. Yep, they're coming in too. Richie Coy, Randy McCanny, Bobby Terrell, John Held, Rachel Hunt, Joe Flanagan all coming in on this one. So there's a few drivers that did not pit. And now we have some interesting stuff going on. Brian Bliss was involved in that first incident. He is still on the track with Chad Lang. But David Hensley either missed his cue to come in, but he is still out on the track. One of the few Speer Motorsport guys that did not come on the pits.
Certainly a interesting strategy there. Not one that I would have foresaw happening, but you never know. May have something else worked up. Maybe has a couple of alliance mates out there that he's hoping they'll be able to help him out. But I don't see it working out too well for him, Jared.
And all the drivers have pitted. We got Jeff Chandler. And Chris, I can't tell, but the 31, does he have damage on that front of the machine?
It definitely looks like Jeff does have a little bit of damage on the front end there. Not necessarily damage that could hurt him as long as he can find another group to be in, but he definitely does not want to be out all by his lonesome like he is right now.
Let's see if we can figure out what happened there, but let's see what we can do with these rest of these drivers. Zach McDaniel is going to cycle out well out in the lead, Chris, and he's got a massive lead. And this second group is going to catch up to him and swallow him up, but he's at least going to get a lap led here in a minute. But that group, it's changed up. You see David Hensley leaving pit road now. He was the race leader, but man, Zach McDaniel, what a pit stop. 14.17. That is almost a second quicker than Gary Griffith, Tracy Powers, Andrew Palicki, all in that group. But the big thing, Chris, the pit lane time. 3 seconds quicker than the rest of the field. I mean, he was unbelievable getting on and off pit road, but did he do too good of a job?
He certainly did, as these guys are going to freight train around him, and he's going to have to figure out how he can jump in line to catch these guys as the draft. He may get lucky and someone will just pull right up behind him and push him, but if he does, it's pure luck, because otherwise this was going to be a freight train around him.
And they do. Palicki, Vrooman, they're going to stay on the bottom side, but that's still going to push Gary Griffith and Tracy Powers around him on the outside. So the 4 Fords on the outside with Casey McMullen in the Chevy leading that outside line. Zach McDaniel on the inside with 2 Fords and a Toyota behind him. Gary Griffith and Tracy Powers duck down. They're going to move to the front. Bratton and Brody Hanna now leading down that second outside line.
They certainly are, but as you saw right there, when those 2 cars dropped down to the inside, that outside groove just completely lost all of its momentum and had to work its way back up. Now the Tracy Powers and Gary Griffith have decided to go back up, but as soon as they do, now the low line has the advantage. As you see our leader dip down to block that low lane, and that is certainly interesting to watch here. Is at this point now you got to figure out where you're going to block at any given moment. It's a little bit early still to be doing that, I would believe.
Yeah, exactly right, Chris. But we will see how this race transpires. It has been action-packed, to say the least, here tonight so far. Gary Griffith leading, Zach McDaniel second. Then we have Palicki, Powers, Vrooman in your top 5 right now. But this pack, it was 17 cars in this front pack. It has shrunk to 13 cars. With Bernard Person and Brian Helm at the back of this group. We did lose Josh Mayu, we did lose Stephen Loomis, and we did lose David Hensley from that first group, as well as Paul Sargent. So those 4 drivers not able to come back out with the lead group.
And that's certainly going to hurt them and their chances. The best thing for those drivers at this point, no one really wants to talk about it, but the big one could help a couple of these guys catch back up to this lead pack.
And Chris, we look at the second group. This time it's led by Josh Mayu. He's about 3.5 seconds behind Brian Helm. But Rob Shoemaker no longer leading this second group. This group now, I think it was about 30 or about, I guess, from about 18th to 34th. So 18 drivers, 17 drivers in that group. And that group has actually dropped down quite a bit, down to only 9 drivers in that pack.
They certainly have made it a little bit smaller, and a lot of that has to do with some of these pit stops that these guys made, just not being able to get on and off of pit road without incident. And we saw it with the 31 car there. It seems like he got a little bit of damage, and that might have been the same thing that happened for a couple of these guys. Didn't want to speed, so they took it a little bit safe, and unfortunately Talladega is not a place where you get to play it safe.
Yeah, and David Hensley was in out by himself. Didn't look like that he made a decision that was going to keep him in the race, but David Hensley is able to find a pack. He's got Jeff Winter, a previous race winner, and John Held also in this group. Kenneth Schultz, Paul Sargent, and Rachel Hunt all in this group as well. Paul Sargent in that Sewtiff machine. Then further back, about 10 seconds, Joe Flanagan did not have a great pit stop at all. That could have been where our contact was, maybe with Bobby. Actually, might have been Bobby Terrell. We didn't get anything on our indicator showing any contact, but these guys, Joe Flanagan and Bobby Terrell, they are all the way back, 10 seconds back. Bobby Terrell has found himself 1 lap down, so I don't know if there was a penalty or if there was incident or something, but he is not on the lead lap. He is the first car 1 lap down. Then we have our next group, and that's Brian Bliss, Lane Allen, and Chad Lang. Lane Allen a couple laps down. And then we have Jeff Chandler driving around by himself, Stephen Loomis by himself, and Rob Shoemaker, the last driver on the lead lap. Well, he was, and now he's a lap down. He was by himself as well. So tough break for some of those guys, Chris.
It certainly is. They're going to be doing whatever they can to stay out of trouble and just hope that they get timely caution so that they can get back up there with the guys up front. You never want to be this far back, especially after a long green flag run, because as we've noticed with these guys, it may seem that they're going to be going green for a while, just like we did at Daytona.
Yeah, exactly right. Only 1 caution at Daytona happened on lap 10. It was a 1-car incident, and then it went green the entire rest of the way. There was an incident on coming to the checker flag, but that doesn't really count as a caution, so it was all green flag in those 100 laps from that point on. But here we go again, and it's single file. I mean, this is crazy to see, and they're picking him up, put him down. Bad news for our former point leader, Bobby Terrell, who lost it last week with that blown engine. Even worse news, he's a lap down, but on top of that, Stephen Loomis and Rob Shoemaker have been lapped, so now he's no longer the first car 1 lap down.
Yeah, that's definitely not something that he wants to see, and the problem is that these guys are going to be able to stay in this lead pack because of catching the draft. So without a little bit of help, Bobby Terrell is not going to be able to get his lap back easily here tonight.
Continuing to work here at Talladega. 44 of 94 already in the books here tonight, and it's been caution-free up until this point so far tonight, as you see Jeff Chandler going a lap down now, so that's even more misery for Bobby Terrell. Chad Lang, the last driver on the lead lap, he's in that group with Brian Bliss. They're about 7 seconds ahead of the leaders, but 7 seconds to Talladega when you're a 3-car versus about 12 cars, not going to be too long before they're going to lap down either.
No, it's definitely not, and that's not good news for those guys behind them. As we look through the field here, there are a lot of guys that are struggling to figure out what it is that they need. Back in that second pack there with Rachel Hunt, she's pleading, sorry, that's the third pack. She's pleading for a faster car up front, and just they can't go anywhere. They're continuing to lose time to this lead pack, even though the lead pack now has started to get side by side up here towards, I think it's about 5th place, Jared.
Yeah, she was speaking on the chat there. I saw it come up on the text chat, needing a faster car in front. But right now, Rachel Hunt dropping back, David Hensley dropping back. And you know, that there's nothing wrong with asking that, but you gotta, if you ask for that, you better hope the fast guy gets to the front, because otherwise you're going to continue to lose time. John Held going to take up the mantle now with Kenneth Schultz and Jeff Winter sliding in behind him.
Well, and they're going to do everything that they possibly can to be able to break this, to be able to catch these packs in front of them. Because if they don't, that lead pack is coming. Even with side by side, there's just so many of them in that first pack that they're way faster than these other packs on the track, Jared.
Yeah, and we see now, Chris, that second pack, led by Josh Mayu. We talked about it earlier after the pit stops. They were about 3.5 seconds. That gap has come down to 2.5 seconds between Brian Helm, the last driver in this pack, and Josh Mayu, the first driver in the second pack. So there is some opportunity for this second pack. They've been very organized, and they've been doing a very good job, and they continue to kind of push a little bit forward. Torgerson, Coy, McCanny, and Brad Patterson leading in that group with Josh Mayu, and they are just inching closer every single lap toward the back of this group.
They certainly are, and it helps that those guys up front are side by side now, and that's going to make them a little bit quicker. Just looking at the last lap, they were almost, it looks like about 2 to 3 miles an hour faster than that lead pack. Excuse me there.
Yeah, it's that kind of day. Allergies and food, all that stuff going on here tonight through our weather delay. And Gary Griffith continuing to lead here at Talladega, 48 of 94 laps in the book. We got Palicki having a career night in third place with his teammate Steven Vrooman in fourth, Tracy Powers fifth, and now they're trying to get organized on the outside, but it's not a team. We got Ronnie Royal, who's dropping actually all the way to the back, or sure, Williford, sorry, dropping all the way to the back of that group. But Casey McMullen is going to lead that group. It's got 2 Speer drivers and 2 Fords in that group. So interesting to see those guys all kind of climbing up. But as they're battling, Chris, you said it, that second group continued to inch closer and closer.
They certainly are, and knocking off about 2/10, almost a lap. They're going to be there before too long, Jared.
Continuing to work here at Talladega. And Chris, it's been a heck of a night for these drivers. You had the delay, and now we're back out here racing, and they're going to have one more pit stop. They all came down around, let's see, somewhere in that 34 to 36 lap range for those drivers. So that means it's a definite 2-stopper. We already got 1 stop in the books, and these guys will continue to work as this race continues on. And Chris, Gary Griffith having a career night as well. I mean, a lot of these drivers. The other thing too, if you look at our scoring pylon, the top 10, which never changes, none of those guys are highlighted in gray because none of those guys are in the top 25 points with a win. None of those guys. So this is a big opportunity for somebody to maybe punch a playoff ticket here tonight.
It certainly is, and we talked about Talladega being a wild card, and that's sort of along the lines here, and these guys know it. That's why they're working as hard as they can to be up in that pack. And don't look now, but Josh Mayhew and that second pack are coming. Jaws music is starting to play in the background.
And you can see him on our screen. You just caught a glimpse of him coming off turn 2. So Josh Mayhew catching to the back of Sure Williford there. It's not going to be long. That gap is now down to, let's see what our scoring says. It is down to 2 seconds. So a half a second. It's taking them some time, but they are gaining on this group.
They certainly are, and that's going to present itself another challenge for these guys, because as they catch the lead group here, they're going to be just a little bit faster. And actually, we got a little side-by-side action back there as well. They got to calm back down really quickly, as they knew that was not going to do them any favors as trying to catch this front group. And as soon as I said it again, there you got the I think it's the number 6 car of Randy McCanny that is just peeking out ever so much. Maybe he's trying to cool that car down, but it's certainly making me wonder with whether or not these guys are going to end up splitting when they catch that lead pack.
Yeah, it's likely. I mean, these guys tape these things up as much as they can, and likely you got to pull out of that draft just a little bit to keep that engine cool. And you look at these guys, and Josh Mayhew, that gap is down to 1.8 seconds. So they are continuing to gain in, but Jeff Chandler getting past, dropping to the back of this group. So he definitely off pace. Tough night for Jeff Chandler. He misses every other week because of his real-life commitments. So he needs every race to go pretty much perfect for him to maintain the top 25. And tonight, not looking good for that 31 machine to keep a hold of the top 30 even, as he is now running in 31st position. But right now, Josh Mayhew leading the second group. Up front, it's Gary Griffith and Zach McDaniel. As we said before, the top 10, none of these drivers have won this season, and now Brady Hanna peeks his nose up in the top 10. But on top of that, some of these guys have never won, period. Tracy Powers, Steven Vrooman, Andrew Palicki, Zach McDaniel, Gary Griffith have never won in the Cup Series in FTSR. And then you also have McDaniel, who has won several truck races, but the other guys, the other four, have never won in the other series.
That's right. That's one thing that Talladega is known for, is the first-time winners here, and that's something that these guys are doing everything they possibly can to be able to claim that. As you mentioned it, this will help them secure their spot in the playoffs if they can stay in the top 25 in points. So every single moment that they can to break away and show their talent, they're going to do it here tonight.
Yes, they are, and they continue to work. And that second group, looming, as Chris said earlier, the Jaws music starting to play. And we got Rob Shoemaker now. I believe he is going a second lap down. So that 66 car must have gotten some damage, Chris. He might have been the driver getting involved. Unfortunately, did not get any indication from our system as to what happened with those drivers. But definitely off pace in the 66. Tough to see as he's going to drop to the back. And Josh Mayhew, he is on the same straightaway and the same area code as this front group. So that it's going to be interesting to see what he does when he catches them.
It certainly is, and as we were talking there, and they were making their way around that lap car actually helped that second group be able to close just that much more. That's how much the air here matters, Jared.
Yeah, that's something that we really haven't noticed a lot, but that air, that side draft appeal has really helped there, and you see it now. Josh Mayhew is hunting down that second group as the first group realizes it, and now they've got single file.
They have gotten single file, but one thing that they have done also is they've spread out a little bit. So now Sherwood Williford is about a second and a half back, and because of that, that's almost just just over a second to that second group, and that's why they're being able to catch so quickly here.
And now he's Brody Hanna's right in that spot where I think Josh Mayhew is going to get a little bit of a draft off of him as you see him coming off turn 4 there. So Josh Mayhew could be closing down that gap just ever so slightly even more now. 56 laps in the book here at Talladega in the Sewtiff.com Quilting Services. Check out Sewtiff. They have it's a long arm quilting service providing professional services for all your quilting needs. Tiffany, the owner, has been in quilting for over 20 years and has the most up-to-date equipment on the market. She can be contacted at tiffany@sewtiff.com, or if you go on the website at www.sewtiff, and that's SEWTIFF, 2 Fs.com. There's a phone number there. You can call her and get you taken care of. Very good quality stuff that she has done. And Chris, as I was reading off that ad plug, Josh Mayhew has brought that second group to the first group.
He certainly has, and one thing to note, he decided to keep it single file. That means they're content with just riding behind these guys for a while here, as we are just past halfway. And that's why I think that these guys are just trying to stay calm here for a little bit. We've got pit stops just a couple of laps away.
Yeah, these guys pitted somewhere between, they stopped from 34 all the way up to 37. So that means our second round of pit stops are going to be, 68 to 74? Somewhere in that range is what we're looking at, I think. So yeah, you're within 10 laps here.
Away, yeah.
Very close to having these things going on. Jeff Chandler also, I mean, this has been an advantage for Jeff Chandler too, because now he has become the first car one lap down there Steve Loomis is actually in front of him, but those guys, if a caution comes out, they're in that position to where they can get their lap back and get back on this lead lap should a caution come out.
They certainly are, and that's something that Steve Loomis in that number 17 car is going to be hoping for, as he's able to stay around this lead pack. And that's really an advantage for him, and not too far behind him is Jeff Chandler in that 31 car.
Yeah, Jeff Chandler, you know, he wants to pass, and we do have some battling at the back of that group. It looks like Ronnie Royal back there. Sorry, not Ronnie Royal. That is looks like actually it could be Jeff Bratton up there. Yeah, it is Jeff Bratton and Matt Geringer up on the high side there. But Jeff Chandler, he just wants to inch in front of Loomis or hope that a caution doesn't come out before we have pit stops.
Certainly, that is true, but at this point, he is several cars back behind that Loomis 17 car, and he's going to have to do a lot of work to be able to get up there at this point, because he's about, let's see, about 10 cars back behind Loomis.
Yeah, Loomis sitting in the catbird seat for the lucky dog should we get a caution, but right now these guys have gotten single file, and this front pack, you know, you look at some of these drivers, Chris, I mean, this front pack is about, what, 27 cars deep, and you see it. You might have seen a glance there on our screen. There is a pack in front of Gary Griffith. There's about 7 cars in that group. Some of those guys on the lead lap, some of those guys a lap down. Brian Bliss is in there. Joe Flanagan's in there. Lane Allen's in there. Chad Lang's in there. It's not too soon, but they're going to be one of the guys that's going to be caught pretty soon to get a lap down.
They certainly are, and they just are not able to keep the pace that this group of 27 cars are able to do, and that's part of the issue for these guys. Those, I think it's 5 cars up in that pack. No, sorry, 4 cars up in that pack, and that's the reason why they're able to close so quickly. And we saw it with that second pack where they were able to catch up. Not this big pack of 27 is easily going to be able to make that make up some time on these guys, and you can see they're almost losing about half a second a lap.
Exactly, and that's something that Steve Loomis, Jeff Chandler, they don't want to see. They don't want to see more drivers a lap down. There's also a kind of a second group now that's got Rachel Hunt, it's got John Held, all those guys in it. They're about 20 seconds back, so they're about a half a lap down to the race leaders. Gary Griffith continuing to lead here, Chris, and he leading the most laps of his career here tonight. Coming into this race, he hadn't led a single lap this year, and it only led 2 Cup Series laps to his name. So Gary Griffith doing a great job in that number 12, leading here tonight. And Zach McDaniel seems to be content to ride right behind him right now.
Of course he is, because he watched the race on Sunday, and he knows that there's only one lap that he needs to lead, and that's the last one, just like Brad Kozlowski did this past week, as we have some cars going to pit road.
And that looks like the Speer guys coming in, and they can make it from this point on. It's a little bit early, but interesting call for the Speer guys to come in pit road.
It certainly was, and we actually had one of those drivers that took out the pit cone there, so it'd be interesting to see what they actually do. And I think that was Brad Helm in that 26 car that actually caught the cone coming into the pits. We talked about it. Mistakes here can be pretty damaging to your night, and we'll have to keep an eye on that 26 car to see exactly what happens for him.
Yeah, Brian Helm, it looked like he did catch it, and if he did, that means that that's a penalty, and he will have to come in and serve I believe that is a kind of a hefty penalty, maybe a stop and go penalty, I believe. So that could be some time. We got the Ford guys, Hannah and Coy, but they're by themselves. Just 2 of them coming down pit road.
They are going to feel the effects of that one as the leaders pull away from them. And, you know, this pit stop sequence has actually separated that lead pack. That is good news for Rachel Hunt and those guys in the that third pack back there, because they definitely needed these cars to get broken up to be able to catch at least somebody.
Exactly right. We are approaching the showtime. It's time to go for these guys. And Chris, you look at this group. That is, you said it right best. It separated this group out. Brad Patterson leading that second group now. That first group, these pits just did not work out for him. And nobody from this second group coming into pit road this time by. Brody Hanna on pit road still. Is he going to lose a lap? Surely not. Yes, Brody Hanna must have sped coming in pit road because that car is still on pit road. Not good for Brody Hanna. Unfortunately, also Richie Coy, his teammate, came out, but he did a great job, and he came out, and he's going to come out with the Speer drivers. If he can latch onto the back of these guys, it won't be too detrimental to his race.
It certainly won't, but that's going to make a big shakeup for those drivers. And one thing to keep an eye on here, the front, the front, I think it's 7 cars. They haven't changed their order. 6 cars, I apologize. And we have more pit stops happening, and once again, only 2 cars are coming down.
And it's Brad Patterson and Dean Doucette, 2 drivers from Blackwater coming down. Loomis did not go with them, nor did Josh Mayhew. So, I have to wonder, is it a situation, Chris, where the communication might have missed, or maybe they couldn't get down, or are they just trying to split their strategy maybe? I'm just kind of confused why they didn't want to come in together.
Well, and I believe that Stephen Loomis decided to stay out because he's hoping to get his lap back when all these guys pit, and then catch a timely caution to help him get on the lead lap, and he'll be able to pit under caution. I think that's what his strategy is. Not sure about some of these other guys.
Watching this lead group, and they are continuing to stay out. We got Casey McMullen. Now, obviously, he wouldn't come in. We got our second group coming in. That's looks like Troy Torgerson, Matt Geringer, and you see him locking it down. Josh Mayhew. So those 3 drivers. Chris, this is interesting. I don't think I've ever seen this where it's been so few drivers coming down pit road together.
I definitely haven't either, and it's going to be a mixed result for these guys. I think it's going to end up splitting our pack up here, and not going to work out for a bunch of these drivers. We'll have to keep an eye on and see what this lead pack here does. If they decided to all come down together, that could ultimately be the deciding factor to this race.
And you see Gary Griffith, he's going to catch up to some of these drivers as well. I mean, they can go to lap 68, but this could put them in a bad spot if they need to pit. And you see him coming off the corner, and it looks like they're all going to stay out, go to the outside. Brad Patterson. This is bad news if you're these guys that are getting lapped down from getting their pits done. Richie Coy in this group as well, because if you lose the draft and you lose your laps, and a caution comes out, you're in a bad spot because you're going to have to rely on a wave around, and who knows how that can turn out for you.
Yeah, your best bet at this point is to be able to latch onto these leaders and be able to use their draft to be able to take you wherever you need to go. And then when they pit, you'll be able to pass them and get your lap back, and hopefully there's not another caution and you're able to fall back in line when these guys come out of the pits. But it's definitely going to be interesting to watch as Gary Griffith and them are still catching other cars to put them laps down.
And looks like they're coming in. McDaniel, Griffith. Are they by themselves? No. Casey McMullen. So again, just 3 cars, and McMullen locks it up. Then we have a second group: Bills, McCanny, Wayne Grossi, Jeff Bratton, Matt Geringer coming in this second group here.
And that second group will probably help these drivers because even though they were a couple seconds behind, they'll be able to catch up with one another and be able to be a bigger pack than maybe some of the other packs that we have along the track. And we have a really separated field at this point, Jared.
Yeah, and I was sitting here trying to think, Chris. Andrew Palicki, Steven Vrooman, and Tracy Powers, they have not pitted. So they're the de facto leaders. But once everything cycles around, I really am struggling to figure out who the leader is. I do believe it's going to be Zach McDaniel, but I don't know exactly how that's all going to pan out as we come around again. And yes, Vrooman, Powers, and Palicki heading in. Palicki, my goodness, he locked it up. He might have sped, Chris. I think the 96 is going to get a black flag. We'll have to follow up on that, but that was very close.
I would have to agree, and you could actually see that he was doing everything he could in that first segment to be able to check up enough to not get that black flag. So we'll have to follow along to see whether or not he gets one or not, but definitely a close call either way.
Now that group that was the third group, they were about 10 seconds, 5 seconds from being lapped. They had pulled themselves up to the race lead now. So Rachel Hunt, she'll take over and get a bonus point for leading a lap. That's huge, especially since she's on that cusp of the top 25. So Paul Sargent right behind her, Jeff Winter, John Held, Kenneth Schultz, David Hensley in this group right now.
And we called it. The 96 car is still on pit road, too fast entering.
And that's going to be terrible news for Tracy Powers and Steven Vrooman, who came in with him. Because they're going to be by themselves. So there's Vrooman. He is the leader on track. He's going to come out right in front of Zach McDaniel, who will most likely inherit the lead. So Casey McMullen second. Gary Griffith going to cycle out in third on these. And again, there's Vrooman going high. Can he latch onto this pack? Does appear like he's going to be just up to speed enough to not be burned by Andrew Palicki speeding. But tough break for the 96 as he will now pretty much be relegated out of this race. And Chris, Paul Sargent is now down pit road, as that whole entire second group has come down pit road, and McMullen now takes over the lead.
That is the first time that we've actually seen someone in a big group like that come down pit road. It almost makes me think that these guys were a little bit worried about coming together with a group like that, that they may end up creating more trouble for themselves than it was worth.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because they can make it 35 laps, so you can work backwards, which means you could pit at lap 59, as early as 59, or you could work forwards, and knowing you pitted on lap 35, you could work all the way to lap 70, which is 24 to go. So you had a lot of range that you could pit in, and you see Gary Griffith that's heading in. He must have sped exiting pits, Chris. Didn't see him slow. Yeah, he did speed exiting pits. So Gary Griffith back on pit road. The driver that's dominated the beginning of this race is not likely going to win tonight. That's going to turn it over to Zach McDaniel, Case McMullen, Jason Speer, Steven Vrooman, Bernard Person, Ronnie Royal, Sherwood Williford, Sherwood Williford, the last driver in this pack. Now, there's a lot more cars here, Chris, but some of these guys are a lap down. That's got Bobby Terrell in this group that's a lap down, and I believe one more driver in here, Brody Hanna, also a lap down in this group.
They certainly are, and that's going to be an interesting thing here, because the first thing that these drivers need to do is get in single file. Being side by side, no matter if it's a lap car in front of you or behind you, does not matter. You need to be single file to pull away from this other group. We've seen it already tonight. The guys that were in that second pack that are now 5 seconds back are able to catch up, and that's going to hurt these guys if they're still side by side like this.
And Chris, I was remiss. I failed to mention Brian Helm. He was one of the drivers that sped that you mentioned earlier. It hit that cone, hit the commitment cone coming in. Apologies. He is in this group as well. So he is the third driver. So 30th, 31st, and 32nd. That's the 26th, the 5, and the 23, all lined up there. Those guys are one lap down, kind of giving a little bit of a shield there to Zach McDaniel and Case McMullen. The high side led by Jason Speer. He is battling actually for third right now with Steven Vrooman, who is at the tail end of this line. And they are catching a pack. Bobby Terrell coming into pits, has not made his pit stop yet, I assume. So he is into pits to finish his up. But there is a pack ahead of this group, Chris, and that's huge news for Brian Helm and Brody Hanna. There's still some points that they can pick up by staying in this group.
Yes, at this point, that's all they're going to do is continue to manage their race, as they need every single point to count for them here tonight. And that's what you're going to see, is these guys are going to race just as aggressive as if they were on the lead lap, because who knows, there could be a caution and one of these guys could end up winning the race still at this point.
Yeah, right now Brian Helm, until there's some of the this other pack is caught, he is the lucky dog. Brody Hanna is in second there. So if he's able to get around Brian Helm, he would be the lucky dog. But this first pack, just 7 lead lap cars and 2 lap down cars. Further back is our second group. That is led by Tracy Powers. Now, he was part of that group with Palicki and Vrooman that got broken up because of the speeding penalty by Palicki. But Tracy Powers leading that second group with Troy Torgerson, Kevin Rupert, Dean Doucette, Richie Coy, and Brad Patterson, all in that, as well as Josh Mayu in that group. Then we have a third group. It's just 3 drivers, Wayne Grossi, Matt Geringer, and Jeff Bratton. That's 15th, 16th, and 17th. Then we have Randy McCanny by himself in 18th. Rachel Hunt is leading the fourth group, which is Hunt, Held, Paul Sargent, and Kenneth Schultz in that group, along with Jeff Winter.
And that big group that we saw pit with Rachel Hunt and Paul Sargent and them, they actually ended up losing about 9 seconds when everything was said and done. So didn't work out too well for them, even though they were able to stay out a little bit longer.
And the bad news is they're about 16 seconds behind Randy McCanny, and Randy McCanny is about 10 seconds behind Jeff Bratton. So he's literally in no man's land. Then we take a look at this fifth group. That's Andrew Palicki, who somehow did not lose a lap. But if you look behind Andrew Palicki, there's the race leaders. And that also includes Gary Griffith, who had to pit for a penalty, Brian Bliss in there, who was involved in that early skirmish, and Joe Flanagan, who was involved in an early skirmish. All these drivers have had something going on in this race, but all of a sudden, if you're Brody Hanna and Brian Helm, you've got about 7 positions you could pick up just by passing these guys.
You certainly can, and that's one thing that we'll have to keep an eye on. But additionally, this just means you have that many more opportunities for cautions as you're going to end up adding people to this lead pack. that aren't necessarily here battling for the win.
So, Chris, you have now, you bring up, or you allude to a very important point. There's two different agendas. All these guys we talked about, Joe Flanagan, Brian Helm, Brody Hanna, John Held, Andrew Palicki, they have a different agenda. They're going to go a lap down. I mean, it's inevitable that they're going to get lapped. They're going to be racing for, 24th position. At the same time, in the same group as the lead lap cars are racing for the win. How do you manage that if you're the race leader, and how do you manage that if you're the guy racing for 24th?
Well, at this point, if you're the race leader, you're going to do everything that you can to go ahead and just get around every single one of these lap cars, so that way you don't have to worry about them holding you up. And they're not going to make it easier. Now, you saw the 12 car go up high, and that was to purposely slow down the lead pack. That helps all of these guys in the pack, because now our leader is forced to figure out if he's able to even get around all of these guys. Because single file like this, he has to have everyone go with him. As you see him peer to the outside, and it looks like right now he just got left by a couple of cars. There's only 3 of them on the outside, and that hurts him. Now that he's up there, he can find his way losing the lead just because of what we just saw.
Yeah, that was a massive move. So Zach McDaniel goes to the high side. Brian Bliss did not move out of the way, didn't need to move out of the way, but now Lane Allen goes to the high side. Joe Flanagan goes to the high side, and Zach McDaniel's going to go up here even higher. They're going to be 3 wide. Lane Allen can't go down. He's not clear.
He certainly can, and that puts us 3 wide here up for the lead, and it's not with lead lap cars. It's just with these lap cars. This is crazy, Jared.
Lane Allen going to get shuffled back. The leaders are moving on the outside. Palicki leading the group. He is not the race leader. Flanagan in second, Hensley in third. And now you also have to think, Chris, there's some teammate aspect. Hensley's on Speer, Bliss is on Blackwater, Flanagan's a part of the Ford group, Palicki's with Rage and Moose. What kind of alliances will these lap down cars play as this race continues to come to its conclusion?
Well, at this point, you're going to do everything you can to help your teammates, especially if you're not in it for the win. Teamwork here is going to matter. We've seen it in real life with the Penske guys working together and doing everything they can to keep it 1-2. Didn't work so well at Daytona, but that's what we're going to see here tonight.
Yeah, and you see David Hensley drop out of that group. He is one of those drivers multiple laps down. He is 1 lap down, now dropping to 30th position. So he drops out of the way. But you got Palicki trying to stay on the lead lap. You got Brian Bliss trying to stay on the lead lap. Brody Hanna's trying to get back on the lead lap. A lot of agendas, because if a caution comes out, this could be huge for somebody like Brody Hanna. You don't have to wait for the lucky dog. You get to actually be back on the lead lap. That allows somebody else to get the lucky dog if he's able to stay in front of Zach McDaniel. And he surely doesn't want Brian Bliss, Joe Flanagan, or Andrew Palicki to go a lap down and take him out of that lucky dog position.
Not at all. And one thing to notice here, the 71 car of Casey McMullen, as he's trying to get up to push Zach McDaniel, he's getting really, really loose coming out of the corners and making that outside lane a little bit of hesitant to continue going forward. That's why they're not able to push themselves in front of this pack yet.
Yeah, 15 laps to go. There's no more fuel that's needed, but it will be interesting to see how this race concludes here at Talladega in the Sewtiff Quilting Services 250 here in Lincoln, Alabama. That second group, we got to check in as this first group has caught lap traffic. Let's take a look at the second group. Tracy Powers continuing to lead it. There's, let's see here, we've got 7 drivers in this group. I don't think they're just quick enough to catch up to this big pack right now, unfortunately. Just not gaining enough time right now, but that is a battle for 8th place all the way back to about 14th place in that little group here.
It is a battle, but it is a battle to themselves, as they have not made up any ground on this lead pack, even with this lead pack going side by side, sometimes by side, and they're just not able to get themselves in a position to catch them. More cars matter, and that's what you're seeing with that second pack.
And you see now Zach McDaniel with a run on the outside. He's going to get alongside Joe Flanagan, who's making his Cup Series debut. Has had a pretty good career in the Truck Series and has run some Xfinity races as well. But Joe Flanagan now up there. He is now side by side with the leader. And now Zach McDaniel continued to power ahead to get alongside Andrew Palicki. And now it's going to be interesting to see if Zach McDaniel drops down in front of Andrew Palicki or if he stays out there and drags the leaders along with him.
You bring up a good point, and we're going to see it. He's going to go down at least to block the run from that low line, and it stalls out the upper groove. So now he's got to go back up as that second group is going to get a little bit better of a run coming off the straight. And he's got to make up that mind if he's going to go up and block and a little bit, but not much. But instead, Casey McMullen decides to dive down to the bottom.
Well, the other thing, too, Brian Helm is a lap down, but he is leading the third-place driver. That's Jason Speer in that yellow car. He is looking to try to move up front, and Brian Helm is going to pull his team owner and teammate to the front. He's also got Gary Griffith there. These guys battling for some positions. Brian Helm, Gary Griffith, they're battling for 24th position. That's the first driver one lap down. But those top two, Casey McMullen and Zach McDaniel, able to kind of pull ahead. But that outside line, it's got three Speer drivers. Bernard Persson up there on the outside. Also Stephen Vrooman and Ronnie Royal up there as well. Another Speer driver, Ronnie Royal. Jason Speer now moving up, or Brian Helm moves down to the bottom, allowing Jason Speer to take over the outside line.
He does, and that'll put the top three right there, 1, 2, and 3 for the first time in quite a while, Jared. And at this point now, it's almost a three-car field, even though the other drivers up here in the top positions are with them. They've got a little bit of separation here.
Brian Helm got the apron. That's going to allow Jason Speer to drop down. So they're going to put the first three drivers up to the front. Now Gary Griffith is leading that outside line, and Bernard Persson tried to look, but is not going to do it. But right now, there's a battle for 24th and a battle for the lead. The top three have now separated themselves out. And can Bernard Persson, can Stephen Vrooman get themselves up into that position as we are closing in? Now we're going to be at 10 laps to go when they hit the line. And Chris, don't look now. I saw up in the distance some lap traffic coming. That's John Held, Randy McCanney, Rachel Hunt, Paul Sargent, all in that group, along with Jeff Winter and Kenneth Schultz. They're going to be caught before the end of this race, I think.
I definitely think that you are right. That is 6 cars in that pack, and they could put a big, significant impact on this end of this race with 10 laps here to go, especially now that we got cars starting to single file up in that lead pack. They're coming in a hurry, Jared.
Gary Griffith pulling out of line. He is going to get out of this mess because he is a lap down. Love the move by that number 12 car. Let these leaders race. Bernard Persson going to drop there, lead the outside line, but unfortunately he's going to need some help to catch back up. In the meantime, Chris, that second group, it's been a slow trudge, but now they're down to 4.5 seconds, so they've gained a second over the last 5 laps. I don't believe there's going to be enough time for that second group to make hay, but they are picking up a little bit of time.
In my opinion, Jared, it's going to be too little, too late without a caution here tonight. But kudos for them to sticking with it and being able to inch their way forward as our top 3 are 1, 2, 3 up front, and they're content to stay behind each other for right now. And I'm going to have to say that we're going to see a huge battle here at the closing laps tonight.
Well, now you have interesting allegiances. So you have Zach McDaniel. Oh, we got Andrew Palicki loose on the bottom, and he holds. That car blew up. The engine has let go on the 96, gets it out of the way. Or no, it doesn't. Sorry, he is just must have gotten loose, Chris. He's able to get it back under control. But Palicki now dropping out of that lead group. That could have been huge.
And you can see what it did to this lead pack. We were almost single file all the way through it, and now it ended up putting in a couple drivers side by side here. As you see, that 8-car Bernard Persson is stuck on the outside now, and that's not exactly what these lead pack would like at this point. They just want to tick off, maybe get down to 3-4 laps to go, and then they can go racing.
Well, Chris, right now you look at this. You have Zach McDaniel. He is basically a single car team. He works with the 77 team, 10 Bills, but he's not in this pack. You have Casey McMullen with Blackwater. He doesn't have anybody associated with him except Brian Bliss in this lead group, and he's a few cars back. And then you have Jason Speer, who has his teammate right behind him, Brian Helm, I should say, right behind him. What can these guys do, Chris? Are you kind of stuck at the mercy of trying to help out, or your frenemies, I guess is what I'm trying to say right now. Who is going to help out who to get this victory?
If I had an answer for you, I would be playing the lottery, as we have a car down on the inside. They're just spinning.
Who is that? There's somebody down there wrecked, but I think they've gotten off the track. That is John Held. That machine is good to go, so he has got that car back going. And the reason why there's no caution, he wrecked by himself off the corner. Let's take a look real quick at that replay. So John Held coming off turn number 2 here. He's got McCanny behind him. And he's going down the back straightaway. And there's he switches lines. And just when he switched lines, unfortunately, there was the accident. And off the track he goes. John Held, tough incident for him. He's going to drop all the way back. We check back in on the leaders. It's McDaniel, McMullen, Speer, and they are the top 3. Person is now there. But, Chris, I noticed some of these lap down cars, Gary Griffith, Bobby Terrell, they've dropped back off this lead group. They've actually dropped back to the second group and have actually started helping the second group come forward.
It's almost like they have a plan to help get some teammates up there. And that's certainly an option here for these guys, especially if you've got the points to spare and not battling for a top 25 in championship points. But still, they're still too far back, Jared. You've got to be up here in this front pack, I think.
And that incident with McCanny and Held in that group, they lost the draft on there, and McCanny's all by his lonesome. He's going to head to the apron and let these guys go by here on the outside. McCanny in that 6th feeling a little bit under the weather here tonight. They're just trying to bring that car home. And now you see McDaniel, McMullen, and everybody's going to go right on around him. So some more points to be picked up for Brian Helm there as he continues to move forward. The first car 1 lap down. Up to 22nd now. Five laps to go here at the Sewtiff Quilting Services 250. We are now down to 4 laps to go. When can you make your move? When do you have to make your move, Chris? And how do you make your move? You see Ronnie Royal heading up to the outside, trying to lead a second group. That's got Royal, Person, and Vrooman all on that outside line. When can these guys start making their move?
Well, you just talked about it. You got Vrooman on the outside there. They're already trying to make that move as Jason Speer will go up there with them.
Jason Speer went up there with him, but then all of a sudden Casey Mullen tried to block. That separated Brian Helm, and now Ronnie Royal is going to shove Jason Speer. So the Speer drivers lined up on the outside as we were approaching 3 to go. I don't know if they're going to catch Paul Sargent, Rachel Hunt in that group. Kenneth Schultz also in there. But it's going to be close. If those guys get involved in the finish of this race, that can make it really interesting. But Jason Speer trying to come on the outside, trying to grab a victory. He's up to second.
He's up to second. That's 1 position away as he's on the outside. And at this point, that outside groove does look very dominant. And this Speer group is trying their best to put it up in the lead.
Jason Speer side by side with Zach McDaniel for 3 laps to go. He's going to take the lead. And what a slingshot move by the 83. Now he's got his teammate Ronnie Royal up front. The Speer guys on the front row. Who will end up winning this race? 3 to go. It's the Speer, 4 Toyotas basically in the top 4 right now. It's Casey Mullen and Vrooman shuffled out.
Well, and the only issue with that is that, and I've said it since the very start of the broadcast, Jason Speer went down low. That's not where you're going to win the race there, cousin. You need to get back up to the outside lane because that's where you're going to have the momentum.
Yeah, exactly right. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Zach McDaniel continue to push forward here and hold on to 3rd position, but now he's kind of boxed in. Ronnie Royal or Jason Speer. Ronnie Royal 3rd in points. This could go huge for him. Jason Speer has had a decent season in the Cup Series. He's 12th in points. Both these drivers would definitely help their chances of getting locked in as we coming through turn 3, and the flagman will have the white flag in hand as they come around. Chris, it's anybody's game who's going to win this race. And I think they're going to catch this last group. It's going to be close.
If they do, it'll certainly help out that bottom groove because they'll be able to fill the draft effects a little bit sooner than the outside groove. And it'll be interesting to see, even if they just get a little bit of the draft of them, what's going to happen as they're still side by side coming out of 2.
And now it's all bets are off. You got to work with who you have. Vrooman there, he's got 2 Fords lined up behind him. Can he make a move on the outside? We'll see as they come down the back straightaway. And the second group getting down off the pavement there. It looks like one of the drivers pulled off. now we have a battle for 22nd, and we have a battle for the win, all in this group. The top 6 are the first 6 cars you see on the screen coming through turn 4. Jason Speer edging out front.
That's perfectly fine, but he's still got a long way to go to be able to secure this victory, as that outside group will have the advantage coming through the tri-oval, but it does not matter. It looks like they're not going to be able to catch up to that Speer car as they tangle behind them, and Speer gets the win.
Jason Speer with a huge victory, calling it in. His cousin Chris Speer, and Jason Speer is going to grab the victory. Ronnie Royal second, Zach McDaniel third. Great run for him. Bernard Person fourth, Casey McMullen fifth, Vrooman, Williford end up 6th and 7th in that first pack. That second pack, Tracy Powers leads that group, wins the 8th place race. Torgerson 9th, and Rupert will finish in 10th place. What a race tonight for these drivers. Chris, it was a little bit anticlimactic. Bernard Person shoved Ronnie Royal as hard as he could, but just couldn't quite get there.
Couldn't get there as they made a little bit of contact coming through there at the end, and that was able to help that inside line as they were able to keep it 1, 2, 3 on the bottom and push Speer to that victory. Zach Daniel didn't have enough to be able to get up there to win, but he was certainly the main reason why Speer was able to take this victory tonight.
And what a play. And respect to the lap down cars, they allowed that top 6 to kind of get up there and race among themselves. So sure, Williford, the only driver that was kind of boxed in, that wasn't able to get through that lap traffic, but you can only do so much there. But the 6 drivers, the top 6 finishing drivers across the line were indeed the top 6 drivers on the racetrack. So it was what a finish and what a win for Jason Speer, which Chris, I believe this is his first career Cup Series victory.
And we talked about it early on. Talladega is the track for first-time winners, and Jason was able to do so here tonight.
Yeah, this is his 107th race here at FTSR in the Cup Series, and he grabs his first victory. He had the dubious mark, if you will, of having the most race starts without a victory in the Cup Series, and now he can cross that off here tonight. Jason Speer going to burn it down. We're going to hear from him and all the top 3 finishers here, recap the race, and take a look to next week's race at Kansas right after these commercial breaks.
This is the sound of the Dark Shop.
And you will know my name is the Lord.
All right, we are back live here at Talladega Superspeedway, where a 94-lap caution-free event has just ended here in the Sewtiff Quilting Services 250 that saw Jason Speer in 106 races grab his first victory in the 107th. Chris, what a race it was for those drivers, and it's always good to see someone new win.
It certainly is, and you've mentioned it there, caution-free at Talladega. I don't think that anyone in this field would have expected that. They know that they only have one at Daytona, but super speedways are known for wrecks, the biggest, the best looking, the most spectacular, but none here tonight, and that paid a huge advantage to certain drivers who just kept themselves clean and stayed up with that lead pack.
And I think you're down on pit road with one of those drivers that was able to keep his nose clean, led a lot of laps here tonight. And I think you're down there with our third place finisher, Zach McDaniel.
I certainly am. I've caught up with the driver of the number 42 car, Zach McDaniel. Zach, take us through your eventful race here tonight.
Well, it was not too eventful. We qualified 6th and kind of stayed with the lead pack. And it looks like I guess I had a really too good of a pit stop on that one pit stop. I come out well ahead of everybody, and I knew I was a sitting duck at that point. But once we cycled back around, I had the lead. I was just trying to work the draft there, and I figured once the Spears guys got hooked up, they'd be tough on the outside, and just tried to hang my position right there and finish where we could.
You mentioned it there that when you that came out for that after that pit stop that you were kind of a sitting duck there. Those guys behind you though, they were racing side by side, which kind of led to a little bit of an advantage for you. They just the outside groove decided to pin them behind you, and that actually was able to keep you up there with them instead of them just rocketing by you, and certainly kept you up for contention. Led a lot of laps here tonight. And even though you mentioned that it wasn't that eventful, you started 6th. I'd say it was still pretty eventful. A lot of different things happening, and you were able to keep that 42 car up with that lead pack, and really that's what it came down to here at the end. Were you a little bit nervous when the top 6 or 7 cars there seemed to be separated by all those lap cars?
No, actually, I tried to use the lap cars to my advantage. I did not expect to have the lead, and I wasn't short on fuel, but I was close. I mean, and so I figured if I could get a little bit of draft off of them, and some of them looked damaged and some of them didn't. So just tried to judge the speed there. Once we got to the outside, we really didn't make any hay getting past them. And so we finally got enough people to do it. But yeah, I mean, like I said, in the end, it wasn't very eventful, but it was a good run. I mean, I can't complain at all once you come out of here with no cautions.
Certainly, that's true, and able to bring that 42 car home in one piece, not something that happens often here at the super speedways. Congratulations on such a great run tonight. Is there anyone that you'd like to thank, family, friends, sponsors, anyone that helps get this 42 car to and from the virtual track?
Well, I'd just like to thank FTSR for everything they do, and this is one of my best finishes in the Cup Series, so it's nice to finally finish eventful, not eventful, not have an eventful night in the Cup Series. So, but outside of that, thank my buddy John James for all the help he does with me, and Spotting and Russ and Tim for there at the end. They kind of helped me once Tim got knocked out. So just enjoy it, run, enjoy racing with Jason and all them. Everybody runs pretty clean.
It certainly was. Well, congratulations on your 3rd place finish here tonight. We'll look forward to watching you at Kansas next week and see what this 42 car can do to follow up this podium finich tonight.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, Chris, that was our 2nd place finisher, and I'm on pit road down here with a runner-up that got a little squirrely at the end, but Ronnie Royal brings home the 24 car in 2nd place. Congratulations, Ronnie.
Thank you. Yeah, my teammates there try to give me a push to get the victory. So we all came across without any destroyed race cars, which is always good on the checking account.
That is for sure. Speer guys all kept it clean tonight. Talk us through your race. I have to say, Ronnie, I don't know how it was from your seat in the track. It was from up here in the booth, it seemed like a pretty tame race for restrictor plate. What was going on out there?
Yeah, I think with the new package, everybody's just filling it out for the first race we had with different draft model, and kind of everybody was being a little bit cautious at the start. We had a pretty loose car. We had to make some changes on pit road to adjust the setup some. really loose coming off the corner, and the very last run was very loose last 20 laps there.
And we saw that, yeah, you brought up, we talked about in the pre-race the draft package, and everybody got single file, and you were kind of trying to make some moves on that outside line those first two runs. But was there just a lot of patience out there as well, where nobody was really wanting to move forward because you knew you had to make two pit stops here tonight?
Yeah, we tried to make a run. It just with the bubble there and the aero effect, it just takes so many cars and so many laps to try to make a run when you've got a lot of teammates paired up on bottom and top. So we decided to fall back in line and make the pit stop and execute that hopefully to perfection.
And you did a great job getting out. Maybe not as good as the 42. He might have done a little bit too good of a job getting on pit road. But then we get through the pit stop cycle, and you come out in the pack. And there's 7 lead lap cars, but there's also a bunch of lap traffic involved there. What did you guys talk to the lap cars, try to get them moved out of the way? Was there any conversation there, or did you guys just say we got to deal with these guys being in our pack?
Well, we gave the normal leaders coming, move high side, low side, what have you, and obviously they're racing for position too. And at that point, you just got to take a deep breath and try to work your way through it. I mean, if they're not going to go high, they're racing for lucky dog at that point, and potential wrecks. Obviously, the restrictor plate, but it worked out. I mean, we made it through.
Yeah, and we saw you try to make a run there. Jason Speer, you shoved him to the front. Jason Speer dropped down to the bottom in front of Zach McDaniel, and did go on to win that race. But Bernard Person, your teammate, shoved you across the line there. And Ronnie, you grabbed second place. But more importantly, maybe you jumped to the top of the leaderboard for the first time since last year in August when you were leading in 2020B toward the end of that season. That's got to be huge for you, leading the points, even though you don't have that victory yet.
Yeah, just trying to click off, top fives, top tens. I mean, we've had a pretty good run this season in the A car. So far, not so much in the other series, but really having some decent luck here. And if I can just, hey, I like to win. I'm happy for my teammates, and but points lead's always good too.
Yeah, it is. And we're heading into Kansas next week. How are you feeling about that, especially with that new updated quote unquote dynamic track that they got going on? What kind of race do you think we're going to get at Kansas next week?
Hopefully some good, hopefully some side by side. I don't know, but normally that's a track you run against the wall, and there's typically some good green flag running there. We'll see how it goes. Got a lot of new drivers in the series, so no, not one of my best tracks, but if I would take a top 10 here and not run it honestly.
I totally understand. Well, Ronnie, congratulations on your runner-up finish. I know you'd obviously want to win, but congratulations nonetheless. I'm going to turn it over to you and let you have the last word here this evening.
Yeah, I just want to thank the FTSR, the league, you guys broadcasting the race. Always have a good race here and a good finish to the end there, and always thank my teammates and we working together and got a win there for the team. So that's looking forward to the next race.
All right, Chris, that was our runner-up, Mr. Ronnie Royal, and this is a special occasion. We're going to turn it down to Chris. He's down in victory lane with his cousin, Jason Speer, who grabs his first career Cup Series victory after 107 races. Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I think you're down there with Jason.
I certainly have caught up with the 83 car of Jason Speer. And first off, let's get this over with, Jason. Over 100 races. Come on, man. Took you that long? I mean, it's not a Michael Waltrip kind of thing, but I'm glad to see you were able to finally bring one home for the family here.
Oh, I appreciate it, cuz that's been a long time coming. Can't feel my whole right leg, but that was a fast race. It was a good race, clean race for the most part, and great team effort.
It certainly was there. We saw a bunch of lap cars get intertwined with the top 6 cars in that lead pack there. Did it have you worried at one point as you were trapped behind a couple of them coming through? It seemed like it was going to make things a lot more difficult for you guys that were trying to catch the top 2 there.
Yeah, it had me worried a lot. Usually, the lap cars will go high, so the lead lap cars can go by, but for whatever reason, that didn't happen tonight. It got a little hairy trying to mingle through those and keep our line straight to where we can keep moving forward. But somehow or another, we got clear of all of it and got down to the bottom lane.
You were able to do so, and I told Jared early on that I thought that the winner was going to be on that outside groove just because that seemed to be where the momentum was coming from every time we'd go through the tri-oval. And you certainly used that outside groove to get to the front, but then you kind of proved me wrong, cousin, and was able to bring it home there at the bottom. Uh, and congratulations, it was a huge run, winning by a .082 over teammate Ronnie Royal on the outside there, with other Speer teammate Bernard Person, the number 8 car, pushing him. But you were able to make it home in victory lane tonight. Is there anyone you'd like to thank, sponsors, family, friends watching back at home, to help you get this number 83 to and from the virtual track?
Yeah, there's a ton of people to thank. I want to thank my teammates there. Ronnie, I know he was pushing hard. We were both like, whoever wins, wins. And neither one of us let off at all. And I know Bernie was pushing as hard as he could. And I was going to stay up high there. And they were like, get down, get down. So I ended up getting down and was able to hold on to the win there. And but thanking people, I really want to thank Zach. He run me clean. He could have done a number of things there, but he pushed me to the win there. So I owe him big time on that, and that's just very respectful of what he did there. So got to thank him for that. And my team, we put in countless hours on this setup, just trying to. We knew that the setup had changed and the drafting package changed quite a bit. So it was pretty crazy during practice. I thought it was a little bit better during the race. It wasn't quite as bad, but in practice, it just seemed awful. Not that it was a lot better, but I felt like it was just a little bit better during the race. And but my whole team just pushing me to the win and participating in practice and just working our tails off trying to get up front. Full Throttle TV, it's just awesome to be able to go back and watch our races, and we got two of the best up in the booth calling the race every week. You guys do an awesome job, and the league, the entire league, for what everybody's showing up every week, and a lot of respect on the track here. And but yeah, just thankful to be in victory lane finally, and ready to go for next week.
Well, you mentioned next week we are heading to Kansas, a mile and a halfer that still has a little bit of draft going on there with its dynamic, the new dynamic model for these mile and a halves. What can we expect out of this 83 group in Speer Motorsports?
Well, we were talking about it. Hopefully, we can put together a good piece. Bernie, he's phenomenal there, and Brian, he's always quick there. And Sherwood, he's steady, moves right up the field, and got to watch out for him all the time. But yeah, hopefully we can get a piece put together and put a few of us up there with this win. This gives me a lot of confidence, but definitely would like to try to put it in the top 5 at least.
And you mentioned it there, you definitely want to be in the top 5, because even with this win, you still have the opportunity to fall out of the top 25 in points, and we certainly wouldn't want that. So we've got to be able to keep it consistent going from here on out. We got some tough tracks coming up with Darlington, and then Circuit of the Americas also. It's going to be a tough one, and we'll have to keep our eye on you. Thanks for talking to us tonight, and again, congratulations on your win.
I appreciate it. I really do. Thanks a lot, Chris and Jared. I appreciate everything you guys do.
All right, Chris. That was Jason Speer, your cousin there. What a win it was. I mean, it's got to feel some relief. I know Jason, he's such a great driver, and he's been so close to grabbing a Cup Series win, and he finally gets it done. So glad to see. We take a look at the point standings. The top 2 in points haven't won. That's Ronnie Royal and Casey McMullen. They are going to be officially the top 2 in points. Dale Nearad drops to 3rd. Coy stays the same in 4th, but Bobby Terrell, the big loser, he drops 3 into 5th. And you talked about it, Chris. Jason Speer up to 8th place in points, and he will be potentially locked in into the top 16. 16 drivers make the playoffs. So if we do the playoff order here, we have 8 drivers that have potentially punched their ticket with 2 drivers that have won that are outside the top 25. And we have about 13 more races to go before the playoffs begin. Chris, it's just now getting started for this season, really.
It certainly is, and you heard Jason mention it a little bit there, that they actually go back and watch our broadcast, kind of their version of studying, and that's going to be an impact if as we go on to these further along into the schedule here, specifically when we get to mile and a half, because you got to figure out where your competition's kind of lacking at, figure out where it is you can get that advantage, and we'll be watching that next week at Kansas.
And the other thing we'd be remiss to mention, we've had 11 races here at Full Throttle Sim Racing in the Cup Series. Only one repeat winner, Dale Nearad, who won twice this season at Bristol. He won the dirt race, and he also won at Phoenix. But otherwise, it has been 10 different winners, and that's insane. It's a record for Full Throttle Sim Racing through that event, and it is just going to keep getting started. We're going to be back next week from Kansas Speedway. Join us same time, same place, 8:55 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll have all the action, myself and Chris Speer there. Full Throttle TV coming up this week. We'll have the Blackwater Products Truck Series. They're going to be from Full Throttle Sim Racing as well. They're going to be broadcasting on Wednesday night. That series is going to be at North Wilkesboro. That's going to be interesting to see how the trucks handle that track. And then on Sunday night, we'll have the Elite Sim Racing Association. That series is going to be at, I believe, Auto Club Speedway on Sunday night. Dean Doucette and Brad Patterson in the booth there at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. But for Chris Speer, I'm Jared Carr. That's going to do it from Talladega, and we will see you guys next week at Kansas Speedway. Good night.